Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joe Pisapia, and today it's Friday. You know what that means? It's time to hit the prop market. We're going to talk about our favorite prop picks, and of course, who better to speak of that than the prop prophet himself, Andrew Erickson, and back with us from the 33rd team, Samantha Previte. You can follow her on X at Samantha NFL. I'm getting better now. I don't say Twitter anymore. Are you proud of me, Andrew? I've made that transition.
I mean, you were going to make it eventually.
Eventually.
Not too
Thanks.
tough.
Thanks. Well, here's the thing. What do we call it? Are we still calling it a tweet? Are we calling it an X?
You can call it Twix. That's what I call it. It's like Twitter, X, Twix.
I don't want to do that. No.
You know, it's like when you have to change like the year. You always write the wrong year at the beginning of the year, and then it's like halfway through the year that you start writing them. Like they're going to change the platform's name at some point. It's not, but by the time I start saying X, of course.
That's true. They will absolutely change it by the time. I'm still writing 2019. It also shocks me. I heard a stat the other day, non-related to football, that the movie Back to the Future took place 30 years ago. I was in Orlando with my daughters, getting a little vacation last week. Bogman and Welsh covering for me with Andrew, and they said, if you did that movie today, it would be the year 1993 that they would go back to. And that made me feel old, Samantha. That made me feel old. What do you think about that?
That makes me feel old too. I was actually, well, I guess I was one then, but
Oh, there you go.
I was just a thought at that point.
You were just a thought. There you go. Well, we've got thoughts about some of the Week 11 props. See that transition? That's why I'm a professional. And we're going to talk about them. But don't forget, if you've got props that you feel strongly about, we want to hear from you. Drop your comments below in the YouTube channel. I want to know what you're in on this week. This is our community. This is our fun. This is what we do. And of course, if you drop that comment below and you subscribe to Betting Pros, you could win a 1-year free premium upgrade to Betting Pros Premium. That's right, the best betting tools on the planet. We've got that parlay tool just around the corner too. So sync your sportsbooks, download the app, subscribe to the YouTube channel, ring that bell till it goes ding, drop your comment below, and you could win a 1-year free premium upgrade. Samantha, you are our guest today, so you guests always go first. So tell me about the number one thing you're in on this week in Week 11 for the prop department.
Okay, so my first prop that I'm going to talk about is Jahmyr Gibbs over 21.5 receiving yards. That's minus 115 at DraftKings right now. So it certainly took a minute, but it is finally Jahmyr Gibbs season. Since returning from injury, he has 68 touches, 427 scrimmage yards, and 4 touchdowns over 3 games. Absolutely manhandled the Chargers' run defense. Last week was the RB2 for fantasy. And now he gets this cupcake matchup against the Bears. They're allowing an NFL high 61.5 receiving yards per game to fantasy running backs. He's averaging just shy of 29 receiving yards per game this year and would have hit the over in his last 3 games. So if you really like this one, I got this idea from you, Joey, last time. You can even ladder bet it. And because I think that he's going to get a ton of work out of the passing game. So Bears do have the second highest yards per catch to running backs this year. So you can even take the longest reception for Gibbs.
I forgot that was the week that we did that you were
HN.
Actually on the show, right? It was HN, and we're finally getting him back this week. So really, you're the good luck charm when it comes to Devon HN. I just realized that. So you're gonna have to come on every week to keep him on the field. They're just gonna figure that out somehow. But it's a great point about Gibbs too. I don't know why, Sam, that people aren't more patient with these rookies, because I feel like they go through this every single year. Like the first 6 weeks are kind of blah. If you look at the fantasy productivity, 7 points, 9 points, 9.7 points. Then he misses 2 weeks. Then 23, 27, 25 the last 3 weeks. I mean, I know that Montgomery was gone for some of it, but he was back last week. And I just don't understand why there's such impatience with the market. And maybe we should all be smarter going forward and understand, hey, first 6 weeks, we hold off a little bit. We pump the brakes on the rookie running backs. And then second half of the season is when we start to really turn things on here. Andrew Erickson, I wish Arthur Smith would abide by that with Bijan Robinson, but I guess we can't have everything we want. Yeah, I know. I guess he didn't get the memo, but I'll try to email him after the show. Erickson, what do you have for the people here in the props for Week 11?
Going after my favorite running back, Darrell Henderson. They're still putting his props out on the market, and I'm going to take advantage of it. So under 41.5 rushing yards for a Mr. Darrell Henderson. So he's viewed by the sportsbooks as the Rams' clear-cut starting running back. But if we just look at how this team deployed its running backs the last time we saw them play in Week 9, that was not the case in the second half. Like Henderson was the leader in the Rams' backfield, 10 carries for 19 yards in the first half. But in the second half, he had 0 carries. He had 2 targets. Royce Freeman saw all the carries in the second half the last time we saw the Rams play. So the fact that there's a chance that this is just a split 50-50 down the middle, and they're playing the Seattle Seahawks, who have been one of the tougher defenses to run against this season. They've allowed fewer than 60 rushing yards to every single running back except for 2 running backs they have faced this season. Henderson isn't good, number one, because he was literally a free agent 3 weeks ago, and he's flown under this number in back-to-back games, failing to pass 31 yards. So I love betting unders. I love betting unders on bad running backs. I love betting unders on bad running backs with bad matchups that are on the Rams named Darrell Henderson. So I'm going to bet the under here.
All good points. I won't tell Scott Bogman that you bet the under. And I love it too, because I'm always doing the Thursday night show with Bogman, who is over central always. Life is too short for the under. And then we come here. And I heard last week when I was gone, Welsh gave you a nickname. Is this true?
Yeah, I'm known as Andrew Anderson or whatever, something along those lines. I may not have been that exact name, but it was, they threw under in my name. And
Anderson. Yeah. There you go. All right, let's get back to a Broncos running back who is finally... again, we waited patiently for Javonte Williams, Samantha, and it looks like finally we're getting the Javonte Williams we were told was super healthy in training camp, and then he would get 10 touches a game. We're all looking at each other like, what's going on here? But the last couple of weeks, 15, 27, 21 carries. He's also getting work in the passing game, seeing at least 3 targets in the last 3 games. But what prop do you have for Javonte this week for the people?
Yeah, so to that point about Javonte in training camp, how do you know when a head coach is lying or an OC is lying? When their lips are moving. So yes, when they're talking. So yes, it's been good that he's been strong of late, but I am at least fading him a little bit this week. So the prop that I like is for his longest rush to be under 14.5 yards. It's kind of a little bit of a weird one, but you can get that at -115 at bet365. I also happen to like the under on his rushing total and total scrimmage yards. That's 68.5 and 88.5. He's been getting a ton of workload, not too much efficiency, average of 24 carries per game in the last 2 weeks, but only has 3.4 yards per carry to show for it. This pick, though, has to do more with the Vikings run defense than I think it does have to do with Williams. In digging into the numbers, the Vikings have allowed an NFL low 1 rushing attempt over 20 yards all season. So that was to DeAndre Swift back in week 2. So if we throw out week 2, there actually hasn't been one running back that would have hit this over. And they faced good competition, including Alvin Kamara, Bijan Robinson, Aaron Jones, and CMC all in the last 4 weeks. And as for Javonte, he has 1 20-yard rush this year, which came against the Packers. So this will definitely be the toughest defense he's faced so far. So I expect him to struggle overall and don't really see him breaking off a huge run here.
All right. Well, the Broncos have certainly righted the ship the last few weeks, but it's like the 2 Cinderella teams meeting up here on Sunday night. We'll see who comes out with the victory. I can't stop the Vikings, it feels like, no matter what's going on. All right, Andrew, back to you for another pick for week 11. What do you got?
So I'm going to pile on here with Samantha's call. I love the Javonte Williams under at 68.5 rushing yards. Just kind of adding some more fuel to the fire to fade Juggernaut Javonte. I know he's been great, but
Juggernaut
the heater, it's cooling off right now. So again, looking at the Vikings defense, how much better they have been over their 5-game win streak. Only 1 running back has surpassed their projected rushing total against the Minnesota Vikings. And we talked about DeAndre Swift ripping off the 1 rush of 20-plus yards. Javonte Williams hasn't been able to do that once. But just overall, the Vikings haven't given up more than 65 rushing yards to any running back except for DeAndre Swift. Like, he was the only running back in that Thursday night game where he was just unstoppable, and it was Brian Flores being like, just run the ball on us, please do not throw. Since that point, like, this defense has been a no-run zone. So I just love getting it at this really high number for Javonte because he has been so good. That's why the number is so high, but the matchup is really bad. So I like the Javonte call as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's gone over that number, 82, 85, 79 the last 3 weeks. So we'll see if he can do it again 4 times in a row or if Mr. Anderson is right again. By the way, if you're making picks, make sure you make them count. That's a better one. I like that.
I like that.
Of course, you're preying on my wrestling love too. So, I mean, we got to tell about that. But Undertakers aside, make sure you're betting over on the BettingPros app, but also make sure you're betting on the NFL contest. Again, bettingpros.com/NFL contest. The grand prize, we're giving away a JSN autographed jersey. And you're saying, well, it's too late, I can't do it. No, that's not true. You can, because we're also doing weekly prizes of swag from our Betting Pros and our Fantasy Pros shops. We're also giving away monthly prizes as well. So it's never too late to join. We're doing premium subscriptions to Betting Pros, to Fantasy Pros. We're just giving away stuff. Erickson's car, who knows? Maybe we'll give that away. Certainly not the engagement ring he gave his girlfriend.
You can't give away
not your
Corolla.
Toyota Corolla. Anything but that.
My kid's going to have to drive that car. Come on.
God, I love you, Erickson. But go join right now, bettingpros.com/NFL contest. Or if you have the app, and I know you do, just go to the community tab and join the NFL contest there. Again, you don't even have to make the bet. You just have to make the pick. 5 picks a week, 100 on the season. That's what you got to do to win that big grand prize too. All right, let's get back to you, Samantha, for another one of your picks for week 11. And it's a Cowboy this week.
Yes. So I didn't know that the theme of the show was unders on running backs, but I'm going to keep going with that. So Tony Pollard under 69.5 rushing yards. That's -110 at BetMGM. I know it sounds like insanity against the Panthers, but hear me out. So first of all, it was brought to my attention on Twitter that the Panthers run defense has actually been slightly better of late. Only allowing an average of 86 rush yards per game to running backs since their bye, and only one of their running backs would have hit this over. Now, Pollard was an afterthought last week against the Giants, whose run defense is also garbage. He was outperformed by some guy named Rico Dowdle, who only saw 28% of the snaps, but rushed for more yards on fewer attempts. So Dowdle was one of 3 Cowboys to rush for a touchdown. The other 2 were Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. So that was a very disappointing week. Obviously, I feel like fantasy Twitter decided it was Tony Pollard week last week because it really should have been, and it wasn't. And I feel like that same logic is being applied here with this big number, but I just don't believe in him right now. He was probably a late first round or early second round pick in most people's drafts too, and it just really has not paid off. Since week 3, would not have hit this over once. So I'm going under here.
I'm a little hurt by the disparity about my boy Rico Dowdle that you just threw out there. He went to South Carolina. Look, just because he was undrafted, that's just where running backs are nowadays. The league has just devalued them. But I know it was garbage time last week. However, Rico did look pretty good between the tackles, something that Tony Pollard has not looked good all year doing. And I know the Giants quit by the time we got to the third quarter, or maybe
right. And they're going to be in garbage time probably this game. I mean, well, as a Carolina Panthers fan.
And trying to that point too, when you look at Pollard and those numbers, even in some of these bigger games where they're more contested, I mean, he hasn't gone over this number since week 3. Right. That is a long time here. I mean, if you go through the game log, 47, 29, 30, 53, 51, and 55. Erickson is calling for how many touchdowns for Pollard this week, by the way, Erickson? Are we up to 3? You're up to 3. We better end the show soon because let me tell you, if we stay much longer, it's going to be 4. I can't stop him. We started at 1, then it went to 2 yesterday in the live stream. Now he's up to 3. So here we go. All right, Erickson, let's get back to you here with another pick for week 11. What do you have?
All right, sticking with this Panthers-Cowboys game. Quarterback Bryce Young over 10.5 rushing yards. I actually really like the rushing props on Bryce Young from rushing yards and rushing attempts, but you look at what he's done on the ground. Last 3 games, he's gone over 10.5 rushing yards. He's facing the Dallas Cowboys pass rush, which means to me, he's going to be running for his life. He's going to be scrambling a lot. So look, 7 of the 9 quarterbacks Dallas has faced this year has gone over their projected rushing totals because, again, they play a lot of man coverage. What does that mean? Defensive backs have their backs turned to the quarterback. They're running downfield with receivers, and that opens up lanes for the quarterback to run, especially when Micah Parsons is trying to kill you. So Bryce Young, I think, is going to use his legs a lot to protect himself. You look at how much they're averaging on the ground. The Cowboys defense, 27.3. Second most rushing attempts allowed on the ground to quarterbacks, 5.8. It's at 10.5 yards. He could get this on the first drive. So I think that Bryce Young, this is my favorite bet of all the ones I've listed out so far. It's Bryce Young over his 10.5 rushing yards. And you can get the attempts at plus money on DraftKings.
No, well, it's nice to see you taking over somewhere too. Just change it up a little bit. But I love the low numbers. I always do because I think those are locks. You can get this on one play, where he just breaks free on one of those moments there, and the pass rush is ferocious. So you got to make sure you're staying alive. Let's take another one of Sam's here because the next guy we're going to talk about is the QB4 on the year. Guy coming off 3 straight 300-yard games. And I don't know, do we want to call him the most prolific passer of our generation, of our time? I don't know, but it's Sam Howell, people. It's Sam Howell. So let's talk about this number here. It's 245.5. Sam, where are you going with this one?
Sure. So I like the over on his passing yards. I really feel like no one wants to hear it, but he is the QB on a per game basis, averaging more fantasy points than guys like Tua, Lamar, and Joe Burrow. Currently has a league leading 2,783 passing yards over 10 games, 17 game pace of over 4,700 yards. And what I think is impressive is that he's doing this behind an O-line that's given up the second most sacks per year this year. So the good news is that the Giants pass rush hardly inspires much fear, 1.5 sacks per game. Howell would have hit this over on the bet in 7 of 10 games this year in each of the last 4. So I think he's on quite the heater. He's got that hot streak on his side, home field advantage. Also like the over on his longest pass attempts. The Giants are particularly bad in the long ball game.
Yeah, and I know the Giants game was not entertaining. Is that a kind way of saying it? Last time these two teams, it was ugly. It was not a fun game to watch. I tried to watch parts of it, and I couldn't do it. But he even hit that number over in that game, which was a hot mess. He only had 10 fantasy points, but he had 249 yards passing in that one. So yeah, he has truly been on a heater the last few weeks, and I don't think any of us saw this coming. But who knows? Maybe he's even saving Ron Rivera's job. You think that's true, Erickson? Can anyone do that? Can Sam Howell do that?
I mean, if it was Ron Rivera, we wouldn't even have. If it was Ron Rivera's call, Sam Howell would never even played. So he doesn't deserve any of this credit. It's Eric Bieniemy and Sam Howell that have really been saving his butt, because he was like, I didn't even know Sam Howell was this good. It's like, dude, what
kind of comment is that?
Well, I mean, he did have a bad last year at college, and that's what happened. The draft stock was very high,
all
and
of
the
his
bad
weapons
last
went
year.
to the NFL.
That's true, but to the case too,
again.
great quarterbacks also make them weapons around them. You know, you and I spent 20 years watching Tom Brady play with Deion Branch and Troy Brown and guys like that. Yeah, he did have Randy Moss. That did help.
And he threw 50 touchdowns. It was great.
He did throw 50 touchdowns. So it does help when you have guys that are very good, but you could still win with mediocre talent.
Well, I mean, they're not really winning. They just throwing for a lot of yards.
Well, that too. That too. All right, let's get back to you, Erickson, for another pick for Week 11. What do you have?
All right, doing another over here. Don't worry, I'm fine. I like this over. Mike Evans over 55.5 receiving yards, minus 120 at BetMGM. I just think this number is really low for Mike Evans, who's been really surprising how effective he's been with Baker Mayfield this year. Look at the matchup against the 49ers. They've allowed 60-plus receiving yards to 8 different wide receivers over the last 6 games. That's how you attack this team. The Buccaneers don't want to run the ball, and that's how you attack the 49ers. You attack their secondary. The over has hit for 7 of 9 games for number 1 wide receivers facing the 49ers, including 4 straight games where they've given up 100-plus yards to opposing number 1s. Evans has gone over this number 6 of 9 games played this year at 67%. 3 of his last 4. Projections have him at 66 receiving yards. So I just think the number is really too low for a guy, especially with Mike Evans, who's used so heavily downfield. Like, he can get this on 1 or 2 passes from Baker Mayfield in a game where they're going to have to throw the ball to keep pace with this high-powered San Francisco 49ers offense. So I think there's going to be a lot of passing overall in this game. The Buccaneers can't run the ball. They don't want to run the ball. So I think it's going to be a lot of targets for Mike Evans. So I like the over here.
Okay, let's get to another one from you, Samantha, as we continue to go through all of our prop bets for this week. And don't forget, everybody, too, if you're looking for some of the best prop bets out there, the prop bet cheat sheet is available over on the BettingPros app or on bettingpros.com, where you can see basically, for those of you who haven't checked this out yet, I'm going to lay it out what it is. You go there. You go for any game you want. You can sort them for any props you want, rushing props, receiving props, anything you want there. And you could see not only the fantasy projections for those where you're looking at what the yardage totals are going to be, then the variance, the best variance you could find over or under those, and then the best place to bet them with the best line. It's all done for you. It is literally the cheat sheet. Okay, it's not just a clever name. It's fantastic. Go check that out. Samantha, what do you have next here for Week 11?
Sure. So my last prop, maybe not the sexiest, but it's Cade Otton over 17.5 receiving yards. That's minus 114 at FanDuel. So the 49ers are quite good against most positions, including tight end, but I just think this is crazy low. Even they have given up an average of over 33 receiving yards to the position per game, and would have allowed this over to hit in 6 of 9 tight ends faced this year. So I think it's a little lower because Otton Otton is coming off of his worst game of the season where he only logged 2 catches for 10 yards. But prior to that, he had his best game with 6 catches for 70 yards. And his target share has been going up in this offense. He's had a respectable 8.5 yards per catch this year. So essentially, I think if you think he can get 2 catches in this game, which he's done in all but 2 games this year, there's a decent chance that he will hit this over.
Yeah, interesting one for sure. Cade Otton, I don't know if it's a sexy pick. I'm looking at the dude. He's got that all-American boy kind of quality about him. Like he's no Travis Kelce. We're talking about the sexy tight ends, obviously. But I don't
Travis
know,
Kelce was no Travis Kelce entering the league. I mean, we've seen those
That's
pictures
true.
of him from Cincinnati.
Taylor Swift made Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
She put him on the map.
That's what my kids are telling me. That's for sure. And they are, let me tell you, they are excited for Monday Night Football because they heard she's going to be there. And it's Kelce versus Kelce. It's a whole thing. So they're like, yeah, Monday night, like we're watching that game. I was like, oh, great. I'm glad that that's what everyone's decided in the house. So that should be fun. We'll put the Christmas Village out and we'll watch a little Eagles versus Kansas City Chiefs. Erickson, give us one more prop before we get to the anytime touchdown calls for the week.
I'm sticking with the tight ends here. I'm going to go under on Dalton Schultz, under 4.5 receptions.
Oh.
I think it's just really another really high number for Schultz. Again, he's obviously been boosted by how good CJ Stroud has been over the last couple of weeks, but it's just a really high number. He's gotten over this number just 2 times in 9 games played this season. Arizona's a tough matchup at 4 tight ends, allowing just 3.7 catches per game to entire teams' tight ends, not just one guy per week. Only 2 tight ends they've played this year have over 5 catches in any of their games. So I know Noah Brown is going to miss this game, but he's not someone that like vacuums up a bunch of targets underneath. I could see Nico Collins coming back, eating into Dalton Schultz's target share. So for me, anytime I can bet an under on a fringier tight end that's been hot, it's usually the move to make. So Dalton Schultz under 4.5 receptions for me.
I got to say, I don't have a lot of shares of Schultz this year, so I didn't even realize that. And I'm looking at the game log as you're saying it. And yeah, the 10 catches in week 9. He had the 7 catches in week 5. And they had a couple 4 spots. But it's funny because he's scoring so many touchdowns, right? He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 touchdowns in his last 5 games. We kind of forget that he's not getting the volume. He's getting the targets, but he's not making all the catches. You know, a lot of 4 for 7, 2 for 5, 4 for 6 kind of situations
it's just,
there. So
it's a number that's too high for just like a basically just like kind of carbon copy cookie cutter tight end that's like, okay, you're good because you're in a good offense right now, but not because the player himself is like, oh, Schultz is like this elite, so good after the catch. Like nobody was saying that about Dalton Schultz. He's obviously benefited from having Stroud, but with all of his toys back, especially with Nico Collins back this week, I think Schultz takes a hit.
All right, this is our favorite time of the show where we give our calls for anytime touchdown. So Samantha, kick us off here. Give us the touchdown lock for you in week 11. Who do you have?
Sure, going with another tight end, Dalton Kincaid versus the Jets at plus 200. You can get that at Bet365. The Jets have been just particularly exploitable against tight ends and have allowed an NFL high 0.67 touchdowns per game to the position this year. Michael Mayer just found the end zone last week. Kincaid didn't do much in week 1 against the Jets, though. I've got to say that was a very weird game, and you got to give him a couple games to get acclimated into the NFL. But since week 7, Kincaid is the tight end 3.5 PPR. Also, potentially the over on his catches as well. That's 4.5.
Yeah, I think we're all seeing finally the Dalton Kincaid that all of us were so excited about, that we saw in Utah look so good in college, and we were very excited about coming into the NFL. Patience.
But that's another
Patience
guy
with the
that
rookies.
I was just going to say, it's another guy that people gave up on in 1 week. I saw him on waiver wires after 1 week because people were like, oh, he's trash.
What do you think happens with Buffalo getting rid of Dorsey? What Buffalo Bills offense do we see this week? I know it's a tough matchup against the Jets, but do we see, in your guess, what would it look like? Are we seeing a little bit more free-flowing? Are we seeing a little bit more just maybe committing to the run for a change, giving James Cook the ball more? What change do you think we're going to see, if any, with Dorsey out as OC now, Sam?
I don't know, because I'm not sure that Dorsey was necessarily the huge issue. I mean, if you watch the game against the Broncos, it just seems like Josh Allen wanted to throw it to the wrong team the whole time. So I would think that, we've seen this before with coaches or people getting fired midseason, that maybe they have a kind of rally around game and they really come out kind of strong, or they could come out as a hot mess. So it really could go either way. I would like to see a little more volume for James Cook as a manager who has it.
I think Sean McDermott's running out of scapegoats, Erickson. That's what I think. You know, I mean, Brian Daboll left, so he was, conquering hero, but Leslie Frazier's gone. Now Ken Dorsey's gone. Like, eventually Sean McDermott, I watch Survivor. The girls and I always watch Survivor every week. You got to have a shield, you got to wait. You make that move later in the off season so they don't come after you, like you can't do it mid-season because if things don't right the ship all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's you, Sean McDermott, that is off the island, and then they snuff your torch and then they send you back where you get to become a coordinator again. Erickson, call a touchdown for me this week. Who do you have?
All right, buckle up, guys, because we're going to
it's 12 for Tony Pollard?
Moon.
Is that what we're up to?
We're going to the moon. Darnell Mooney. Plus 470. Third in receiving yards. Or third most receiving yards with just one touchdown score this year. So he's due for some just natural regression because of how many yards he has totaled. He has 0 touchdowns on his 4 red zone targets. The Lions matchup is great for wide receivers, allowing the 4th most receiving touchdowns to wide receivers. Face the 2nd most red zone targets to wide receivers. Mooney hasn't scored since week 1. And the kicker here is Lions are one of the worst teams against defending number 2 wide receivers, 31st in DVOA against number 2 pass catchers. So I love Darnell Mooney overs at 26.5 yards. I love Darnell Mooney to score. I love him in DFS. We're going to the moon with Darnell Mooney.
All right. Well, I will say you have a theme this week. So Erickson's theme for week 11 is guys who scored in week 1 who haven't scored since will score in week 11. It's all the ones. It's right. It's the numerology of it, Andrew. It's like everything's lining up. Yeah. The stars are aligning.
I didn't even think about that, but that makes a lot of sense.
Now, see, now it's all true. Now we know for sure. Samantha Previte, everybody, make sure you follow her again on X. Check out her work over at Samantha NFL. You can check her out at 33rd Team, doing great stuff for them. We love having her on the program here, taking time out of her busy schedule, doing important things to hang out with us and talk a little football. And of course, Andrew always has to be here with me. He's contractually obligated. But don't forget, drop a comment below. We want to know what you are in on this week on the YouTube channel. Drop the comments in there. I want to see them. And then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Click that bell till it goes ding. So you know if you're the big winner of that next big BP premium upgrade that we're giving away to somebody. It could be you. It should be you. Let it be you. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Samantha and Andrew, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.